All right. Welcome back, Nittany No Huddle Nation, to another episode. I got Zach here on the horn. We are live. Um, just finished watching Penn State crush Iowa 31 nothing in the whiteout game. Penn State looked really, really good. Zach, what are your initial thoughts? We're going to try to go for about 10 minutes here of just kind of our random thoughts. So, what do you think off the bat?
Yeah, I think a little sluggish off the start. I think and that seems to be the Penn State's mo a little bit. We've had slower starts in the West Virginia and Illinois games in the first half, where it was, I think actually West Virginia was 14-7 at half, and Illinois was 16-7, and then this one was 10-0. So if you just tuned in at halftime and nothing else, and you just saw the halftime score, you think, this is probably a game. When in reality, this one, it was pretty apparent. I don't want to say almost immediately. Iowa's first drive, they looked like they were going to maybe be able to piece some things together, utilize the tight end, a little bit of running the ball. But after that first drive, they did absolutely nothing. And it just seemed like State was able to score even the 10-0 at half. It's like, I don't know how Iowa, absent something crazy like a blocked punt or blocked field goal or something, like how are they going to score? It just, and that's what we talked about. We were all
Yep,
over it in the
nailed it.
preview. It was. I think Iowa has a couple pieces. I think that they have this voodoo that they have against Penn State from time to time. But how are they going to score? I mean, Luke Lachey being out, I think, hurt them. That was obviously their top target, and it was pretty apparent. Like, they don't have a wide receiver that they want to throw the ball
Yeah,
to. I mean,
at all.
they didn't even look to throw the ball to the outside or down the field. And part of that is, and I think the story of the defense is the pass rush. And from this game, I mean, Cade McNamara, it got to the point where you actually felt bad for him. Like, and I'm surprised they didn't get him out of there earlier. I think it was obvious they were never going to move
Yeah.
the ball, and he's definitely their best chance at winning the West. And I think he's been hurt. I mean, we've heard about him being kind of banged up all year, so I probably would have pulled him out of there earlier. There was a hit, I think it was Chop,
It
that
was,
just
yeah.
drove him into the turf. But yeah, it was a little bit of a sluggish start, but just basically everything you'd expect, or you'd hope Penn State would be able to do in the whiteout conditions with this type of weather. Ball security, no fumbles. We had the Northwestern game last year in similar
Yeah.
conditions where everybody was fumbling left and right. Penn State continues to take the ball away from the other team. And the Illinois game, it was interceptions. It was pass rush and interceptions. Tonight it was a pass rush actually getting home, stripping the quarterback, forcing fumbles on ball carriers. Just I think Oregon had a turnover today, so I think Penn State now is the only team through 4 weeks that has not turned the ball over on offense, which is just crazy.
Wow.
I think one of the things we'll talk about when we go forward in this segment maybe is not necessarily concerning, but I think they really, whether it's play calling, strategy, or just Aller's tendencies, he doesn't really take. We've been just throwing a lot of short passes, a lot of tight end throws, a lot of running back out of the backfield throws, screen passes, quick hitters to the outside. We just seem like a team that is not going to turn the ball over, which is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. The one thing that really stood out to me, I feel like you kind of hit it, is that I feel like we get stronger as the games go on. And I don't know if that is a testament to Franklin, this whole idea of play as many guys as possible, get everybody on the field if we're just better conditioned. But I mean, this feels like every game this year that now we're in a fight till halftime, and then not even a fight. I don't know if I would characterize it as a fight, I guess, but we're in a game that looks close until halftime, and we just pull away and pull away and pull away, and our defense was absolutely dominant. You totally hit it, that we called it in the podcast that Iowa has some guys and their defense looked really good at moments, and Penn State had to kind of nickel and dime it down the field, but their offense is just miserable. And do you have any opinions or insight onto how that offense, like, because I still think Iowa could win the West. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But how are they going to be able to move forward with an offense that is this bad? If you're still there, you look a little frozen. Uh-oh. We've lost Zach. All right. Well, while we wait for Zach, I guess I'll fill airtime here And
There we go.
oh, there you go. All right. Did
I'm
you
not
hear
sure
my
what happened there.
question, or do you need me to?
If you asked the question, I missed it.
Okay, so I was kind of rambling on there about how Iowa's defense looked really good at moments. Penn State really had to. You even mentioned it, like we didn't take big shots. We just kind of methodically moved the ball down the field. I mean, that one drive was what 16 plays, only like 60 yards. Like it wasn't like a huge long drive, and it was a ton of plays. Um,
Yeah, that third quarter. I mean,
yeah,
so the drive right, and one of the things Franklin always, there's a number of things he always harps on: turnovers, explosive plays, which is an area I think we've been lacking in. But one of them is I forget what he calls it, like something the final 4 minutes of the first half and the first four
yeah,
minutes of,
yeah,
of the second half, like the middle eight. I think he calls it the middle eight, maybe. And anybody that's ever played like Madden or NCAA video games knows how important the coin flip is, and how you end the half and how you start the next half. But the third quarter drive to open the second half was just perfection, right? So you have a team on the ropes. Again, I think the game was pretty much over. I don't think Iowa was going to be able to score. But then you have a team on the ropes. You come out. Not only does Penn State march down and score, they took like 8 or 9 minutes in doing it. They ran the
mhm,
ball. Again, not pretty, not a lot of big gash plays, but very methodical and just kind of imposed their will. And at the end of that drive, it was like, now the game's over. 17-0. With Iowa's offense, 17-0
yeah.
feels like 100-0. And I know at one point I think they got one first down there at the very end. I did they only end up I'm
I think they
working on
ended up
pulling
with
the stats up.
four. I was just looking
Four
at
first
it.
downs,
I think so.
and the time of possession must have been hideous too,
Yeah.
because they had so many three and
They
outs.
had 14 and a half minutes is how long they had the ball. Four first downs. They had a total of 76 yards. So that was actually to not to steal back the thunder here, but that was my question for you when we kind of got disconnected there is what do we think about Iowa? What does this mean? What does this win mean for Penn State as far as do you still think that Iowa is a team that can win the West based on the pieces they have? How can they overcome this absolutely atrocious offense? Or was Penn State's defense just that dominant tonight? In the grand scheme of things, how does this win help Penn State? Because Iowa was ranked, and I think they're a team that can contend in the West. But from the college football playoff point of view, and we're going to get into that probably in like 2 or 3 minutes here. From that point of view, this is a win that we need to look good. And I guess my question to you is, do you think it will look good in 5 weeks, or is Iowa bad?
So I think, let me think. I'll answer it this way. I think Iowa might be bad and
Yeah.
still win the West. I
Okay.
think clearly Wisconsin. I mean, I would be Illinois. I was kind of concerned during the middle of the day today
Yeah.
because Illinois really struggled with Florida Atlantic. I was hoping, maybe Illinois to bounce back and make that try to make that win look like something going forward. I'd have to sit down and see who plays who at home in the West, but I really think Wisconsin had a nice road win at Purdue. I really think Iowa and Wisconsin are probably the two teams at the top
Hmm.
that you would figure one of those teams will win it. The next group down, maybe Minnesota. I don't know that they have offense, but frankly, Hunt, they say they may very well still win the West, but I think they're bad.
Yeah.
I really like I don't know where they go to find the offense, because I don't think, one of the groups we talked about was we thought their offensive line would be solid, and even with the changing of the guard at the running back spot, maybe they'll be able to slog and just kind of get 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and I don't think they have that. I think McNamara is hurt. I don't know that you're going to get healthier as the season goes on. That's one of those things with the quarterback. Like Clifford, like 2021 Penn State, where Clifford was banged up in the middle of the season. You're not gonna get magically healthy in the middle of the season. So all that to say, could Iowa rattle off some wins and get back into the top 25? Possibly, but I don't see this as at the end of the year. I guess I'll answer the question this way: this season still is going to be Ohio State and Michigan or bust. It
Yeah.
just is.
Right.
The rest of the schedule I'm sure next week, for when we talk about this in more detail next week, we'll talk about West Virginia had a nice win today, right? Maybe
Hmm.
they're not going to be horrible, but we're just not going to have any other wins to point to, I think,
Right.
unless you have Ohio State or Michigan.
Yeah. And actually we have a special guest here that's trying to join in. He's getting frustrated because I haven't added him. So let's welcome Jordan live from Beaver Stadium. Jordan, can you hear us? Mm, we can see Jordan. We cannot hear Jordan.
We can see him, but
That's a great like. If somebody screenshots that and makes it a meme, that would be absolutely amazing. I mean, we only have two people on right now. It is super late. It's 11:15 here on the East Coast. Um,
the game actually went pretty quickly considering, I
yeah,
mean, how much
I,
running there was and how
yeah.
Iowa was
I
even
mean,
trying to pass it.
yeah. Iowa threw it 16 times. Um, Penn State threw it. That Penn State threw it
Yeah,
40
here's
times. 40. But I mean, that.
and here
Go ahead.
yeah, here's the weird thing is that 40 throws does seem like a lot, but it's almost like most of the throwing game tonight was an extension of the run game.
Yeah,
You know, there
100%
was
agree.
so many. You know, they clearly wanted to target Singleton and Allen out of the backfield. You know, they were involved. A lot of short. It basically seemed like to me it was let's throw to the tight ends, let's throw to the running backs, and then let's target Lambert Smith when he has one on one. And I mean that's borne out by the fact that you have Lambert Smith with 8 catches, Theo Johnson with 6, Tyler Warren with 2 catches, 2 touchdowns, Khalil Dinkin with a touchdown, 1 catch, 1 touchdown. You know, you've got
Yeah.
really outside at the wide receiver position outside of Lambert Smith, you had 2 catches from Clifford, one from Cephas. That's it.
Yeah.
They had 3 wide receiver catches after Lambert Smith. Um, and maybe we'll talk about that being a problem when we get further into this segment, but it just seemed like it does seem like a lot of throws, but it almost felt like a
Yeah.
lot of it was sort of just an extension of the run game.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that too, is that I mean, Clifford or Clifford Aller completed 25, 26 passes, whatever it ended up being, and but he only averaged 6.3 yards per completion. And we said it in our group chat that Aller has an arm, and it has felt like at times this year we haven't really utilized that. I mean, that case in point, two of those touchdown passes were absolutely amazing passes. The fade to Lambert Smith, that we keep throwing fades to 5'11 guys, but that one worked. And specifically that one touchdown pass to Tyler Warren really stood out to me as showing what Aller is capable of. And we brought it up, and somebody maybe jump in the comments. We're starting to grow a little bit in viewers here, which is awesome. We want to hear from you guys, the fans at home. Um, Part of that is I think there was times where we would say like, I guess it doesn't look that bad. Like that overhead camera from Beaver did not make it seem nearly as bad as I'm sure it was, and that's hopefully Jordan can join us back on here. They would show that field level camera, and I was like, oh my god, it is pouring. It looks terrible there. So you got to think that that was Yurcich trying to keep Aller in a good position. Um, Throw it 40 times, but only throw what 2, 3 balls more than 10 yards down the field in those
And
conditions. I think it,
part
yeah,
of that too is the way Iowa plays defense, and they play a lot
correct.
of too high safety, and so they're just sort of forcing you to take the underneath stuff. And so I think a lot of factors kind of played into that, but it's still a little disconcerting. I think if you polled Penn State fans at the moment, like what's something that's concerning you, or what do you think is and maybe this is a segue, but what do we need to work on, or what do we want to see as far as cleaning up areas where maybe it's not even a weakness, but just something that we need to be better at if we're going to want to compete with the best teams in the conference in the country, and that's you got to throw the ball down the field. I mean, we're just um, you may have actually mentioned this, but Aller, I mean, tonight he averaged 4.5 yards per attempt. So it's just
Right.
a lot of dinking and dunking, and that's good. It's good to be methodical, but against the better defenses, sometimes you got to take shots because it's kind of hard to march long drives against good defenses consistently. And the best offense is a varied offense that can do a little bit of everything and can run the ball and can the short passing game, the deep passing game, and so something to watch. But again, with the receiver group, and it just seems like there's not a lot of confidence, whether it's from the coaching staff or the quarterback. They're just not targeting other guys all that much, and it might be a trust thing. It might be they're just not getting open. I think with Illinois played a lot more man, and I think in
Mhm.
that game it was obviously we talked about the drops, but there was a lot of other instances where it felt like people weren't getting open, which contributed to Aller, climbing the pocket and scrambling a little bit. Tonight, I don't think it was as much of that. I think Iowa sits back and plays a bit more zone, so
Mhm.
something to watch going forward. You just love somebody, whether it's Cephas. We really didn't see a lot of Malik McLean tonight. Clifford was out there some. It's one of those things when the snap counts
We
come
played
out.
so many tight ends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see who's getting the snaps because
Yeah.
a lot of times you're just on all those throws to the tight ends and all those running plays. You're not necessarily tracking who was out there a lot.
Hmm.
We saw Harrison Wallace a little bit, saw Dante Cephas some. It just feels like at the moment that Lambert Smith is getting 2/3 or 3/4 of the snaps, and then the other wide receiver snaps are just being kind of shifted around to whomever had a good week of
Yeah.
practice, and it's good. It's good that there's depth. It's good that there's a lot of guys that they trust to put out there, but it doesn't seem like they trust anybody enough to say you're the next guy, and we're gonna try to lock you into that spot and build you up in it.
I agree. And it was nice tonight before we transition into our next segment. Last comment I'll add here. It was really nice to see Theo Johnson get involved a lot tonight. We had been talking about how we just felt like he hadn't really shown anything yet this year, and we just keep waiting for him to break out. And there was an article on Penn Live this week again about him and how he's staying focused and not getting frustrated with not getting many targets through the first 3 games. Um, it clearly was a point of emphasis to get him involved in the passing game tonight, along with Dinkins and Warren and the running backs. And I think the weather played into that, but it was nice to see him get involved and feel like he's making a difference. So I think that probably wraps up our just general 15-minute spiel here going on. Jordan's still trying to get involved. He keeps texting us. So hopefully he gets service here in a minute or two and we can hear from outside the stadium. So let's transition to our first real focused talking point. We have two main ones, and then whatever, if Jordan joins, whatever he wants to talk about. So, Zach, I'm going to leave this up to you. I'm going to ask your opinions on it, and you tell the people what you think. I want anybody who's watching to join in the comments and tell us your thoughts, either why Zach's wrong or just your own thoughts on this particular question. So, we're 4-0. We're probably still going to be number 7 after this week because if you are at home, Notre Dame has lost to Ohio State. So everyone in front of us has taken care of business this week. I think we could possibly jump Florida State. I think we could possibly move up one spot, but I just don't. I think we're going to be 7 again, which is kind of crazy to think about. So, Zach, what are your two biggest takeaways from this game that give you reason to believe that Penn State is a college football playoff team right now this year, that we will go 12-0, maybe 11-1, but 12-0 and sneak into the playoffs and we're a legit contender right now? What are your two biggest takeaways 4 games into the season coming off of a dominating win over Iowa?
So I'll use, and I guess it's okay to kind of look at the 4 game. This not just about tonight, right? So 4
Correct.
games.
Yeah,
So
you can talk all 4
I'll say
games. I
the
mean,
two
I
things.
would say try to focus or think about tonight. I think was the best performance, arguably, and the best team we've played. West Virginia maybe has something to say about that now that Marchio's starting. But yeah, in general, 4 games in, we're a third of the way through the season. What makes you think that Penn State can and will make the playoffs?
So I'm going to talk about 2 different things, both on the defensive side of the ball. That's not to say I'm like throwing up red flags about the offense. There may be another question that you'll ask that we can talk about. But
Mhm.
so defensively, number one, the pass rush. Number one, the pass rush. You watch any of these teams that are in the playoffs year in, year out, they have freaks at defensive end. They have like crazy defensive tackles that can get after the quarterback. Um, you have to get after the quarterback. When you play Ohio State in the playoffs or you play Alabama with the Bryce Youngs and Clemson with Trevor, you have to be able to do that. And Penn State's been pretty good in that department over the years, but I think this year is on a whole other level. I think Chop Robinson looked like a lottery pick tonight.
Yep.
He had offensive tackles on skates, and I don't think Iowa has a bad offensive line, but I mean he just was ragdolling some of those tackles, and that's not to say anything about Danny Dennis Sutton had a really good game. Adisa Isaac was in the backfield all night. Carter was there. I think the defensive tackles had a really good game. They've kind of been in the spotlight a bit in the early season. Hakeem Beeman, Jordan Vanderberg is a guy that's getting a lot more
Hmm.
playing time. He's not doing anything that shows up in the stat column, but he's a big body. I think he might be a guy to keep an eye on when Michigan rolls in town and you're looking at run defense. He's just a bigger body. I think another guy that we didn't talk about much last week, Keziah Izzard, came back. Didn't get a lot of run early. He played a lot in the second half. Frankly, I didn't really notice him tonight, but I think the defensive line depth is really starting to show up. You talked earlier about Franklin just really prioritizing building depth, and I think there's probably no position more important for that concept of team depth than the defensive line. You watch again the Alabamas, Clemson, LSU over the years, Georgia. They play. They're a two deep at every position along the defensive front, and they're just rotating these guys in to rush the passer, get ahead, rush the passer, and I think you have to have more than four guys that can do that. I think a good example, Iowa. I thought Iowa had a couple guys on the defensive front tonight that were really solid, but they were out there all night.
Yeah,
And so, if you're in Iowa, you don't have the ability to go to the bench and throw other DNs out there and expect that they're going to do the job that Evans and Craig. I think both of those guys actually had a really good game. And
I agree.
but so number one, yeah, the pass rush. I think it's there. I think there's some dudes on that defensive front, and then when you throw in Carter and Jacobs, it's elite. And then number two is the secondary. Really didn't have to do a whole lot tonight, but the ability to kind of pair that pass rush with elite cornerback play. If you caught any of the Ohio State game, they didn't have a great offensive game, but Ibuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover. If Kyle McCord is just average or competent, there's a lot of weapons for Ohio State, and same thing with Michigan. You got to have guys that you can trust to just say, hey, lock them down, because we got other things to worry about, the running game, whatever it might be. So for me, the two things that I would point to at this moment, if you said, hey, at the end of the season, Penn State is in the playoff, what went right, or what could you point to as two big reasons why you got there? Number one, the ability to get after the passer, and number two, having corners on the outside that you can play good offensive teams and elite offensive like elite receivers and say, you got to lock these guys down, and we have that. And not every team has that.
I think those are perfect answers. I think that we have right now at Penn State one of, if not the best defense in the Big Ten. I Ohio State tonight. I didn't get to watch all of that game, obviously, because we're flipping back and forth, and YouTube TV does this awesome multi-view thing, but NBC didn't work with it tonight, so that was really frustrating. Shout out to YouTube TV. But anyways, so I didn't get to watch as much of that game until like the fourth quarter because I knew it was close. But Penn State has shown through 4 games now that they are elite at every level on defense. There was a lot of conversation. We talked about this in our preview show. The pass rushers, was Franklin concerned because they weren't getting a lot of sacks? And he said, no, I'm not concerned at all. They're getting into the backfield. They're getting hurries. They're causing bad throws. They're doing all these things. They're just not recording the sacks. And we talked about West Virginia has a running quarterback. Delaware was its own type of game. Illinois got rid of the ball quick. All these things. Tonight they showed up. Chubb Robinson to me was the player of the game tonight. I felt like every time Iowa tried to pass, which I know wasn't a lot. I know it was only 16 times, but I felt like every time Iowa tried to pass, Chubb Robinson was there, and he was in the backfield. He was just eating his offensive tackle alive and was getting there every single time. Also, obviously, your 2 points are an elite pass rushing group, so defensive linemen, including maybe outside linebackers and stuff, and then arguably the best secondary in the nation. But then you got guys like Abdul Carter, who does just freak athlete things. You got Dom DeLuca, who I guess is kind of more of playing safety this year than linebacker based on reports, but I still feel like he's more of a linebacker.
Sort of like a hybrid role,
Yeah,
I
he's
think.
like that
Yeah.
slasher guy. And then Curtis Jacobs tonight, first player since 1991 to recover 2 fumbles in the same game for Penn State, which is kind of a crazy stat. Before one of the two of us was born and the other one was very young. So since 1991, they haven't had someone recover 2 fumbles in the same game, and that's Curtis Jacobs, who we didn't even talk about really. I feel like we've barely said his name all season. Not that he's done anything wrong. He hasn't done I don't think he's played poorly or anything like that. We just haven't really said his name at all. So I'm with you. I think the defense right now looks elite. And I mean, the next couple weeks aren't going to really teach us a ton about what we have until October 21st is that that's Ohio State, right? October 21st.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as long as we don't fall into sleep mode trap game, that we should not really know how good this defense could be until Ohio State, whose offense did not look good tonight. I know obviously, let's just get it out of the way. I said Notre Dame would win, and I said they'd blow them out by 3 scores. I still think Notre Dame's defense is really, really good. Jean Baptiste was amazing for Notre Dame tonight. Just Ohio State found a way to win. And as Penn State fans, that's good. I mean, that's good that Ohio State won. They now have a quality road win at Notre Dame, who's still going to be ranked, still going to fight for a college football playoff. If Notre Dame wins out, they're probably still in the college football playoff, depending what happens around them. So that's good for Penn State that Ohio State won. Yeah. But it's definitely going to be that game has to even be more circled now than it was 2 hours ago. So I'm with you. I think those are great reasons. It looks like Jordan's trying to join. I'm going to add him, see what he says. Oh, there he is. Can you hear us?
Can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. How's it going?
All right. I'm just catching up, so let me know where you're at.
We're talking about, based on tonight's game, what are two reasons that Penn State's going to the college football playoff? What do you think?
Reason number one, the defense was elite all day. I mean, just shut them down completely. And the running game looked pretty good, I would say. Those are my 2 reasons.
Okay. All right.
That's how it felt in the stadium anyways.
What'd you say? Did he say it felt like it in the stadium?
I think he said that's how it felt like in the stadium.
Yeah.
I will note, Jordan. I see your jacket there. Just keep in mind this is a Coca-Cola sponsored podcast, so please try to cover up that Pepsi product.
Oh, he's going.
And we just lost him.
Service again. That's all right. Well, what's he doing? He's not in white. What the heck is he doing? Yeah, he was that clown. He was probably the clown that Franklin was telling, take off your rain gear if it's not white. It's exactly who Franklin was talking to, our buddy. Of course. Oh, there he goes. All right. Anyways, so I'm going to try to add him again. Next time, I'm just going to kick him out. This is what happens, folks, on a live podcast. Oh, and we got a comment. I'm going to see if Jordan can add. M. Go Boski says, I didn't watch all the game because of Ohio State, but Penn State looks like the class of the Big Ten right now. Appreciate the comment. Appreciate that you're tuning in with us here at 11:30 at night. I agree with you. I didn't watch the whole Ohio State game, just like you said, the opposite. But I agree. Penn State looks like the best team to me in the Big Ten if their offense can maintain. And Zach, maybe that's a perfect segue here to our second talking point, since we just talked about 2 reasons that they're going to make it to the college football playoff. Let's think about the negative. So hopefully Blizzard Warning isn't watching this and thinks we're always negative about everything. But Zach, based on the first 4 weeks, what are 2 reasons why you think Penn State is just not good enough to make the college football playoffs?
So I'll hedge a little bit. I'm gonna change your question if I have the ability to do that, but not that why I think they won't go to the playoffs, but the thing some things that concern me that will probably impede us getting to the playoffs if it doesn't go well. Okay. Number 1 is the combination of the downfield passing game with the receiving core. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. Obviously, Lambert Smith is the go-to guy, and they trust him. We just don't know who else there is, and frankly, through 4 games, we have not seen Aller throw the ball down the field at all. I mean, tonight they didn't at all. And again, it's raining, it's windy. Totally get that. I think Illinois did some things defensively that took that away. West Virginia, we had the long ball to Lambert Smith, but really for the most part, even in the West Virginia game, it was a lot of dink and dunk. And I think part of that is the skill set of the offense right now favors that style of play. You've got a lot of tight ends, frankly, 3 tight ends that they really like, that they really trust. So you're gonna have a lot of 12 personnel. You're gonna have 2 tight ends out there.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you have 2 tight ends out there, it's just naturally going to take away from your ability to really spread the field vertically and horizontally, because those guys aren't as athletic as we think they are. They're not as fast as receivers. So also they really like getting the ball to the running backs in space. So you've seen a concerted effort to throw the ball to Singleton and Allen, which all of that is great, but you need to be able to get chunk plays in the air, and you need to have guys that scare defensive coordinators, because when you play Michigan, you play Ohio State, if you get to the playoffs and you see Georgia, Florida State, the better the team, the better the defense you're going up against, the harder it is to dink and dunk the ball down the field. I'm not saying it's easy to get chunk plays, but you need to be able to balance your typical dink and dunk offense with some chunk plays. And I just think I don't know. We haven't seen enough, I think, to know whether we don't really have any quality receivers behind Lambert Smith. Because I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that the rest of the guys stink.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't think we've seen enough to know who that guy is or if we have one. And I think we need one. I think you need one. You're not going to go through the whole season with just basically rotating a ton of guys in at that second receiver spot and hoping that you find somebody. And again, I think Aller has plenty of arm, and I think he's a smart. He's just smart quarterback who reads the defense. So I think there's nothing to say he can't be a downfield passer. We've just seen a shockingly low number of balls that I think have traveled 15 or 20 yards down the field tonight. I don't trying to recall.
His longest pass tonight was 14 yards.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that was 14 yards in the air. I mean, I don't think we threw a pass that traveled 15 yards downfield in the air. We'll put it that way. And again, didn't really need it tonight. Not a problem. Probably won't need it for a lot of the games on the schedule, but that's something to just keep in mind, that when you play these better teams, because they're going to come up, they're going to jam the receiver at the line of scrimmage. They're going to blitz. They're going to say, we don't think that Harrison Wallace is going to run by us. We don't think that Dante Cephas is going to beat our cornerback. We don't think that Liam Clifford's fast enough to. That's going to be something to keep in mind. It's not that it can't be done. I just think we haven't seen it, and it scares me a little bit. So that's one. I guess number two is just, I'll keep this one brief. I just don't think
that's fair.
Running game.
I totally agree. And again, I think you're saying go ahead.
Sorry, I think I must have got cut off there, but
that's all right.
The running game hasn't clicked to the degree I think we all hoped it would. It's not that it's a problem. I just think it's a little disconcerting that we haven't seen big gashing chunk plays on the ground. I think that they'll happen. I think that they'll be there. I think part of it is the type of defense that they're playing that we've been seeing through the first 4 weeks. Iowa's a great example, where Iowa just, their bread and butter is they don't give up big plays, right? They play the too high safety. They play zone, so everybody's eyes on the ball. Some of the more aggressive defenses, like a Michigan, they'll get a lot of tackles for losses on you, but because of that aggression, sometimes you can pop one if you get by the first level of the defense. So I'm not throwing up a red flag on it, but I think, again, it is something to keep in mind. And I suspect if you polled a lot of Penn State fans right now and said, hey, what are the things that are concerning you? You'd still be hearing like, hey, the running game's been pretty good, but it's a little odd that we're not breaking big plays.
Yeah, I'm with you. And just to back that up with some stats here from tonight, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton combined had 38 carries for 121 yards, if my quick math is correct. 38 carries for 128 yards. Obviously, at the end, you get Bo as the running quarterback. He gets in there and gets, I mean, they just, if he's in the game, they're just going QB draw basically 99% of the time. So he finishes with 55 carries. Drew had 22 yards, and Trey Potts, who would start for a lot of teams in America. And I love the fact that he's in our our running back room right now, helping Katron and Nick through obviously neither one of them are happy with their performances so far this year. I don't think, based on some comments that I've seen in press conferences and everything like that. I don't think either one, Allen or Singleton, thinks that they've played great so far this year. So Trey Potts being there, that senior fifth-year guy, kind of holding them together. Zach, did you notice that CBS put up that graphic that Trey Potts has the most rushing yards of anyone on Penn State from his time at Minnesota? Like that was kind of interesting. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people don't follow like other Big Ten teams the way that we do, but this wasn't a guy that like just never saw the field at Minnesota and then transferred to Penn State to try to get on a winning team. Like he got a lot of run at Minnesota, and
he was behind a really good running back.
Yeah, but Minnesota ran the ball so much the last couple of years that he got, and actually Ibrahim a couple of years ago, may have been 2 years ago, I think Ibrahim tore his ACL, and Trey Potts ended up being the lead back that year. So this is a guy that, again, this wasn't like some scrub that transferred in. That this was a guy that was getting a lot of carries on a competent Big Ten team. So again, you're 100% right that if he's your third option, that's a great problem to have.
I agree. And
Give me like
Jordan's back with us. Jordan, I didn't tell him your reasons yet. Zach said his two reasons that we aren't going to the college football playoff potentially, or at least a little questions. One, do we have a deep threat at wide receiver because we are not throwing the ball deep? And number two, the running game has still just been so-so. So do you want to tell the people what you just texted me? What are your two reasons that we are not going, or we might not go to the college football playoff?
so this can be a hot take. First reason, Drew. Second reason, Aller. I don't think he's that guy.
Okay.
I don't know if you got that.
Yeah, we hear you. Yep. Yeah, we can hear you.
We're just not comprehending what you said, but we heard it.
Yeah. You want to explain it all? Oh, he can't.
Yeah, basically, I mean, he had a great game, like no doubt, but I don't know. At this stage in his career, I don't know if he's that guy who can carry us to the playoffs without wide receivers. That's my take.
That's
So
totally fair.
that's actually fair, I think.
Yeah.
Like
I'm with you.
that
Very good.
to me that's actually somewhat fair to explain it that way, because again, I think and I hate to make it every week we're just saying this whole season's about Ohio State and Michigan, but that's what it is. And
Right.
like to say to this guy, like, hey, you're gonna have to go into Columbus. Everybody in our fan base knows we have one wide receiver that is sort of reliable at this point, and the running game's been kind of crappy. But like, we need to go into Columbus and win. You have to do it. Like that. That's a tall ask for any quarterback. But let us know in the comments if there's anybody still watching. Let us know what you think about our fearless leaders' prediction that the reason we won't make the playoff is the quarterback play.
Yeah, he explained it away much better than Jordan normally articulates. Yeah, if we had a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. or McKay or Julian Fleming, even like if we had one of those guys, I think that we would have that deep threat guy. And I agree with both of you that Drew Aller is probably going to have to put a lot on his shoulders of making plays to wide receivers that aren't that good. And hopefully moving forward, that can be a point of emphasis. We've always had one or two pretty good wide receivers, maybe not elite, but like good wide receivers. And our offensive line has always been kind of sketchy. Right now we have a pretty good offensive line. It wasn't perfect, and there was moments where they looked bad. I think our right side of the line is awful, but they do just enough maybe to survive. And then we have no wide receivers. So maybe we can work on that recruiting balance a little bit better, but I don't know.
It's hard to hit on everything all the time, and part of it again too, keep in mind, like, so Parker Washington had eligibility remaining.
That's true.
I'm not saying it was I'm not saying he made a bad decision going pro. I think he's on the active Jags roster.
Yeah.
But just imagine this team with Parker Washington and Mitchell Tinsley.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like, I think we're a complete team if you have those two guys. And that's where, like, I'm not saying we even need we don't need a Marvin Harrison Jr., but like Tinsley was a great example last year where they went out in the portal, brought Tinsley in. I thought Tinsley had a really good year. He's really solid. Mm-hmm. He was not a superstar, but he knew his role and he played it really well. And I think Cephas was supposed to be that guy this year. And he's been out there, and so he's definitely in the mix. He's clearly not stepping into the role and taking it over the way Tinsley just came in and Tinsley was the guy. I mean, it was Washington and Tinsley from game one, and you just that was the order, and you knew it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get this other comment. Aiden says possession time of 47 minutes, 27 seconds for Penn State. Crazy. Totally agree. I texted Zach and Jordan in our group chat. I texted you guys when CBS put up that graphic, which I wish I would have taken a screenshot and I'd share it here on the screen right now. When Bo Prabula came into the game, it was something absurd, like 27-2 first downs, which I think it ended up being 27-4 or 28-4, whatever it was. I exited out of the box score. Possession time was just insane, and it was like 390 to 60 total yards. I mean, I made the joke to you, Zach, that at one point it seemed like we might score more points than Iowa had yards. It was man, their offense is terrible. So Aiden, thanks for joining in. Appreciate that you're watching. Go do some homework before school on Monday. Everybody else, tell him to go do his homework too. All All right, so we're at 40 minutes. The goal was 45 minutes. I think we're trying to keep these reactions without Jordan maybe a little quick. I really a last comment here with these last 5 minutes, Zach. This is what I wanted Jordan to get on for, but he just texted and said that it's just not working good enough, so he's not going to try to jump back on. All right, what are your thoughts? This was the second largest crowd in Beaver Stadium history. Only to Ohio State in 2017 was bigger. What I mean, how does that translate and like to where Penn State was a few years ago and where they're at right now to get 100 and basically 111,000 people in a hurricane downpour to host Iowa, like that's awesome. I think it's really cool. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you have any thoughts on that?
well, and you heard Danielson for CBS on the call referencing late in the game, like look around and like you see all this. Those aren't white seats. Like
Yeah,
anywhere else in the country in this type of blowout with this weather, they're gone. People are gone, and I think it just shows you. And Penn State's one of those fan bases that even in the lean years, like they fill up the stadium. But
yeah,
this fan base is hungry, man. And again, it seems like I'm the one always bringing up Ohio State and Michigan, but like there's just a hunger right now to make the playoff and to get back into. We've just been right on the cusp, right? And I think it would be really cool. This is getting off track a little bit, but the playoffs going to go to 12 teams starting next year. Who knows? It may even expand further going forward. So, as long as Franklin's in town and the recruiting stays the way it is, like you're going to expect to be in that 12 team playoffs, like at least every other year, if not more. I would love to get a one entry into that 14 playoff. Just I would hate for that 14 playoff era to have gone through and we didn't make it once, knowing that the Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley teams, and then 2019 we were a win away. 2022 we were probably a win away. It would be really nice to get in. I think this year the way it's shaping up, in the preseason we talked about some different scenarios and looking at the other conferences. You have to win the Big Ten this year. There's no way. Notre Dame's going to be in the mix. Somebody's probably coming out of the Pac-12 is so good it may actually cannibalize itself.
I agree. I think that's going to end up happening as they all just end up eating each other alive.
But I think Florida State's. You look at Florida State's schedule; they'll find a way to lose probably, but they are sitting really pretty now, having beaten Clemson on the road, Texas.
Hey, Duke has that win over Clemson too. Duke is in the driver's seat there in the ACC.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's all that to say. I think this is a year where
it was really good.
This isn't one of the years like we've had the last couple of years where you could say, is it going to be two Big Ten, two SEC? Because the ACC is in the mix and the Pac-12 is in the mix, and I think the Big 12. We usually like to pump up the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is garbage this year. Yeah, I think
I'm with you.
It's crazy how the last couple of years you've seen Kansas State and Oklahoma State and Baylor, a lot of these other teams rise. TCU last year.
Yeah,
it's Texas, Oklahoma, and just a bunch of trash in that league right now. Maybe Kansas. I love Kansas, but. So between Texas, Florida State, the Pac-12, obviously Georgia or somebody from the SEC is getting in. There's no scenario where Penn State splits Ohio State and Michigan and gets in. I just don't see it. And frankly, the way that the tiebreakers are going to work out with the West crossovers, I don't think Penn State can get to Indianapolis with a split. I think they have to go 12-0 to make the playoffs. That's where I'm at right now. Obviously, a lot can happen, and you know how crazy every single week in college football can be. And this week looks like it kind of didn't deliver any crazy upsets. So we'll see. It was a really good slate of games, and we'll probably talk about it next week when we do our recap of the picks. But a lot of good games out there.
I agree, and I think what you said was spot on. That we're probably going to have to go 12-0 to make it to the college football playoffs. I mean. Maybe I don't even want to say it, but could we go 12-0 losing the Big Ten championship game and get in? Even that, I don't think so, because then we're losing to like an Iowa or Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's going to be. It almost becomes a bad loss.
Like, yeah,
and here's the craziest part. Maybe this is a great place to leave it, but it's not impossible that you won't see this matchup that we saw tonight again in Indianapolis.
It wouldn't
as horrible as Iowa looked, and that's maybe the one saving grace for Iowa. They can go home, lick their wounds, and here's maybe the way to look at it. They have the same schedule that Purdue had last year. Purdue in the crossover had Penn State, no Michigan, no Ohio State. And Purdue obviously looked a lot better in their Penn State game, but lose to Penn State and then take care of business in the West. That's the model, right? And Iowa's still very much alive, as horrible as they looked.
The only thing for Iowa, I think that their crossover game, or yeah, it looks like
Did they have
they have
Maryland?
they have Rutgers, who
Okay.
I would think Iowa would be able to beat Rutgers, but Rutgers looked good for a while today against Michigan. They play really well against Michigan. Um, so that's I mean the way Rutgers is right now with
Man, what's the
Shiano,
over
who knows?
under? What's the
Yeah,
over under going to be in that Iowa Rutgers game? It's going to be like
12.
28.
Yeah, 12.
First team to score wins.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Whenever the halfway through the game, Iowa's line shifted to 0.5. That was their over under for points for Iowa. I
Wow.
don't I don't know if I've ever seen that in a
I mean,
Power 5 Big 10 game
that's
where the
nuts.
over under for a team is 0.5. It's insane. So,
I
um
I think the over under for the game started out at 40.
yeah,
Earlier this afternoon, I shifted it down to 33 and a half,
yeah,
and it hit. I got the
easy
under. I
money.
mean, it's just
Yeah, easy money. Iowa's offense is bad. And I actually just exited out their schedule. I think that McNamara looks hurt. He really does.
yeah.
And I
He's not right.
He's not, because I don't think he's nearly as bad as he played tonight. And obviously, not having Luke Lachey, huge loss. Not having your top two running backs, huge loss. Um, I kind of wish that Iowa maybe has a bye week next week or the week after, which like I said, I exit out of their schedule. I'm not going to pull it back up because we're going to wrap up here. But I think Iowa needs a bye week
They
to
got to
just
get him
kind of,
right.
yeah, to get him healed up, because
Yeah.
I think that they have some pieces, and I think he is a good enough quarterback that he can use what they have tight end wise, and even Raggiani, or however you say his name. Like, I mean, he had one catch for what, 4 yards or something like that. Like, I think he's a guy that can make plays, and I think McNamara can be that quarterback. So I think I'm going to hold out hope. I feel like we come on here and we're, especially like after West Virginia, we're like, oh no, West Virginia's not that bad. This is going to end up being an okay win. Um, Delaware is going to be the playoff team in FCS. Illinois might win the West. Iowa might win the West. I feel like we come on here and try to oversell to make
Yeah.
Penn State seem good, but also, I mean, I kind of
Also, I think we
believe
were
it.
vindicated. Like
Yeah,
we were already vindicated by West Virginia. I think we sniffed out what West Virginia is, which is obviously limited in some ways, but
right.
capable in a pretty garbage Big 12. I mean, they had a nice
Correct.
home win today over a Texas Tech squad that,
That was
keep in
ranked at the
mind,
beginning of the
Texas
year.
Tech. Yeah, and they came within a whisker of beating Oregon.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
think West
that's
Virginia's
true.
competent. They obviously are limited, but they're competent, and I think, well, when we talk about any of these Big Ten West teams, again, Illinois. If Illinois won the West, I would not be shocked. I think they got some problems and they didn't look good today. But who are you going to sit here and say no way that Illinois wins the West because of this team or that
Yeah.
team?
I think Wisconsin's probably the best team right now, but even they are very flawed, and they're very not. I still feel like they don't know who they want to be. Are they going to go this air raid route, or are they just going to keep feeding this running back that has been really impressive? But I think that they don't really want to. I think they want to throw the ball.
Yeah,
So
and they
I think,
lost Ches Malusi, one of their two lead backs
yeah,
got hurt, and it sounded pretty serious. So they're going to be down one of their best offensive players,
the West
and
is
and
open.
and I mean, just to wrap up on Iowa, I mean,
I
any
agree.
Iowa fan will tell you there's been some horrible Iowa offenses over the years on teams that ended up going 9-3 or
Yeah.
10-2. So it's not, they know, they're used to it, right? This isn't some like new thing for them.
Mhm.
They'll find a way. And Brian Ferentz's drive to 325 really took a hit tonight.
Okay.
So
Jordan called that. Jordan called that. He said that I was going to get shut out and he was not going to get to 325. So
just think of how many extra points now he has to score to catch up to. It's pretty much impossible now, but
yeah. So whatever. I don't know. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. I think this is a good win because of the adversity that Penn State had to go through. To play in these conditions, I think it's going to help them, and hopefully they can just kind of roll through these next 3 weeks here before Ohio State, and we'll see. But overall, just to recap before we log off, we appreciate everyone that's joining in. Appreciate the comments. I threw Aiden's other comment up there. Stadium was electric, miserable day, but people showed up. Yes, they sure did. Totally spot on. So we appreciate everyone for tuning in. Zach, do you have anything else to kind of wrap up?
Just that it's going to be, we referenced October 21st as the Ohio State game. And you look at the calendar, that's almost a month away. And between now and then, we have Northwestern, UMass, and bye week. So now the team needs to focus on what's in front of them. But for everybody else, immediately we're on to Ohio State, right?
Yeah. We're already 6-0 looking at Ohio State. So.
Yeah, and so that'll be maybe the challenge for the coaching staff is to just kind of keep things in normalcy. Like, look, we got a game next week, we got a game the following week, we got a normal bye week. Let's not look ahead, right?
Yep.
Easier said than done.
For sure. So I will wrap it up by reminding everybody. I know we only have 11 or 12 of you. It keeps bouncing back and forth that are on right now, but on the Nittany No Huddle Instagram and Facebook pages, we are running a promotion right now where Jordan is giving away his 2 tickets to the Rutgers game. Is that right, Zach? I don't have the graphic.
Yeah, Rutgers. Yep.
So Jordan is giving away his 2 season tickets and parking pass, which is a great parking pass. Super easy in and out of the stadium. Great seats right beside each other. The north end zone, opposite of the student section. 2 tickets and a parking pass to the Rutgers game. All you got to do is go like the post on Instagram and then send us a DM that you like a screenshot that you're following or subscribed to the YouTube page. And if you're watching right now at 11:52 p.m., I think it's probably safe to guess that you're probably one of our subscribers. So go like that post on Instagram, send us a DM that you are subscribed to the Nittany No Huddle YouTube page, and you get entered for a free chance. We're going to do that drawing, I believe, the week of the bye week because we're going to need some content that week. And so it'll probably be after the Northwestern game when we normally do our preview of the upcoming game. Since we don't play a game that week, I think that's when we're going to do our live drawing to see who gets those tickets. So make sure you go do that. We'll be back Wednesday morning. We're going to record Tuesday night to preview Northwestern. Let's hope that we can keep it super short because, well, Northwestern is terrible. So that'll be a little tease for this week. Zach, thanks for hopping on. And I'm going to play the outro just because I like the guitar and it makes me smile. So see you later, Nittany No Huddle Nation. Thanks for joining in.
Thanks for watching the Nittany No Huddle podcast. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Podcasts are posted weekly on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss one of our new shows.